Okay, or do you want to do some to the cloud at your end? Oh, we've got Heather as well. Hello.
Hello, Heather. Right, I want to see if I can get to it from.
Okay.
Good luck again.
We will give it a minute or so, I think, and then maybe get started.
Yeah.
We have 6 of us all together to start with, so that's really good.
Brilliant. Okay.
So you give me the nod that we're okay to start then, Emma?
Yeah, I think we should start now. It's 12 o'clock.
Fantastic. Okay, well, welcome to all of you for joining us on the webinar about attracting the clients that you want. And what we hope to do is run through some tips and techniques. Rather than having a special guest speaker on this start, we chose that myself and Emma would do this because there's a lot of resources that we've got in System Builder, and we thought this was a really good opportunity to link those into this as we go. Anything you'd like to say to open, Emma?
No, I think there'll be lots of things, and if you've got any questions at any point, please either put them in the chat box or switch your mics on, because as much interactivity as possible means that you get more learning. So if you could do that, would be great.
Fantastic. Well, I want to move this slide forward. Okay, I'm glad that's working. So what we're going to cover during this session today then is defining your ideal client. We know we pick up some of this in clarity and in positioning, but it's really, really important that you do this as part of attracting the clients that you want along the way. So we'll have a quick look at it, but make sure that you go back to what you've got in your clarity and your positioning book if you've got to that stage. There's also about how to appeal to your ideal clients. You've got to know who you want, and you've got to work out how you're going to appeal to them. Also in this, what we want to do is just spend a bit of session thinking about how you relate to these people. So it's great to get in the door with them. It's great to know who they are. It's great to get in the door, but it's also important to just work out how you relate to them. And we're also going to have a look in this session at Cialdini's influence on this. So he is a social scientist who did an awful lot of work about influence and how you can influence conversations. We'll have a look at that as we go through. So I'm not going to labour on this, but I will look to probably Emma at the end of this slide because she's got a real wealth of knowledge in this area and in terms of working with so many clients and actually identifying their ideal clients. But if you remember in the positioning roadmap, we always get you to look at who your ideal client is. And remember, this isn't just about having anyone that will pay for your services or is able to pay for your services. This is about having the clients that you are able to work with. And it's about having clients who fit the profile and who you've had success with, or the data success that suggests that you will have success with this area. So what we're not saying here, it's not about dreaming up a new client base. It's about understanding where your market segment is and making sure you make the most out of it. My thoughts there, and again we'll talk to them at the end of this slide, is start with what you know and start with the success you've had with your existing clients, because that's where your knowledge base is, and that's where your experience lies, and that's where you're really, really able to help them. If you're choosing your ideal clients based on new sectors or qualities of people you think you might like to work with, you need to carefully review this to make sure that your reality of this section matches your perception. Anything you want to add there, Emma?
Yeah, I think we often talk about this is that when people think about ideal client, you know, they may think about size, turnover. There is, I think, quite a connection between size of the business and whether or not they will be open to your advice and things like that, because of where they are in their business journey. And just like we do the loser trap, and we explain the loser trap to you, your businesses are often in that too. and being able to sort of hit them at the right point when they're open to having discussions with you is really important. I think the second thing I'd like to say is often people have a challenge identifying their ideal client, but when you and your team think about your existing clients, you definitely know you're not ideal clients, the people that you're currently working for that you really wish you weren't, and being able to define why that is, what it is about that person or that business that makes it really challenging, and whether the challenge is worth the investment of time and energy and learning by your team, or whether it isn't, can be really important. So sometimes to flip the process and think what you don't want as much as what you do want can be really valuable for you.
Okay, that's fine. But all of this, attracting the clients that you want, you need to have a really good understanding, don't you, of who your ideal client is?
Oh, definitely, yes. I think the problem is that people throw a lot of money at marketing and at marketing companies without really defining who their target market is. And therefore you can waste a huge amount of money. And so actually having a real clear picture of who you want to attract is really important, because also it makes you be more realistic about the numbers that you're going to attract to, and whether or not you can service those new clients, and be a bit more careful about that whole thought process around it. But being very clear about who you want to target, who your ideal client is almost the starting point. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Okay, so we talk about your appealing to your ideal client, and I think there's just a little bit of not a case study here as such, but does your brand match what they're looking for? And the reason I put this in there is that there's one of our members, Marie Donaldson, and she has launched a separate brand as part of her portfolio aimed at female entrepreneurs. And the reason I'm saying this is making sure your brand matches and your company matches the people that you're trying to attract. So you need that congruency in how things fit together. And I think it's making sure that it's taking that ideal client or ideal customer and saying, actually, does that match what I'm looking for? So am I looking for people who want particular things from me? And does my brand and does how I portray that, back to what Emma said about marketing, fit together? And think about then, because obviously this is just taking a step on from your ideal client, how will they find out about you? Have you got clients already in that sector? What publications do they need? What do I need to understand about that sector? And how will you get introduced to them? So it's okay having this is my ideal client, this is people I want to work with, but actually if it's sector specific or any other sort of specifics there, what are you going to do to get into their world? Any thoughts on that, Emma?
Sorry, I accidentally muted myself there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you've got to understand how to get into their world.
Oh, definitely, yes. And I think as well, this is about also getting in, not always just using the standard procedures of, again, marketing sectors, but actually looking around your local neighbourhood, actually approaching businesses around your neighbourhood that do match your ideal profile, and being able to have conversations with them, because we all know that once you're in front of them, you've got such a better chance of talking to them and finding out their challenges and being of value to them. So how they will find out you, yes, you will need to think about brochures and marketing and whatever else you want to do to raise your profile out there. And again, we talk a little bit about that in positioning and a bit more in profile, but also just perhaps just thinking a bit smaller in a way, a bit closer to home is often a really good thing as well. Who else do people know? Who else do you know that could connect you to those people? So I think that's a really important thing. And I agree with Andrea as well. If it is sector specific, thinking about who are they in front of regularly? Is it publication? Is there an event they go to? Is there an annual thing that you can connect into? I think that's really important.
Yeah, good. I'm just going to go back over one point you said there, which I think is really important. You said get in front of them. So your advice there, Emma, is to get in front of clients, not just assume that you can have a conversation with them maybe by email or by phone. The important thing is to get in front of them and have that conversation with them.
I think because of competitive nature out there. I think a lot of accountants are looking for very similar clients, because we're really looking for those people who will take our advice, who may be a little bit entrepreneurial, who want our different services. That one of the ways of differentiating yourself and appealing to a prospect or client is actually to go and visit them and show interest in them. Even if to go and just say, you know, not particularly to say that I want your business, but more to go, I'd like to find out more about you and the type of business that you run. Because even if you don't get the business, the fact that you've learned a lot about that industry or that business type can be very valuable in future meetings with other prospects. So to actually go and show an interest and say, well, you know, and loads of people, they love talking about their business and what they're doing with it. And often in that conversation, you'll also hear their challenges. And that's obviously an easy in for us in the future.
That's good. And I think that's really, really sound advice, because you hear so many people say, oh, I want to give them a call, I want to do this, but actually the key thing is to get out there in front of them. Okay. So we get out there, we're in front of our clients. How do they view you? And we're just going to spend a little bit of time over the next couple of slides just thinking about how you relate to those clients. So we know that getting in there, building a relationship with those clients is key. We need to look at how you relate to those clients and how they relate to you. And if we can get this right, you can have a meaningful relationship with them that actually leads to discussion and puts more areas on the table for you. Why do we want more areas on the table? Because that's what leads to the added value work for you. So we've got in the door there. We know we've got to go down and sit and see them. This is about the relationship. And I'm just going to share a couple of slides with you. I'm not going to labour this too much, but I will ask Emma for her thoughts on them as we go before we have a look at the work of Cialdini. Has anyone come across transactional analysis before? Yeah. So transactional analysis was invented by a social scientist called Ed Burns way back in the years. And I love this model because I think it's a really simple way of looking at things. So whenever we talk to anybody, we can talk to them from 3 different perspectives. Posh term for that is called ego states. And there's 3 of those. And any of you out there with children will recognise the first one. This is the parent. And if you are talking to somebody from a parent state, you've really got 2 options there. And you'll probably find that you go between the 2 of them. You go from the critical parent, where you're criticising them, but you're speaking with authority and instruction. Things like, so don't you think you better get your homework done now? Those are the sort of things. I'm looking at Emma there. She's probably been through this one there. Or you go into the nurturing parent, offering advice and support, which is all great, but that's very, very much a parental type of role. Further down from that, you've got the adult, which is the conversations that you may have with your partner, you may have with other friends of yours. And it's those people who you have a relationship with, and you have a conversation as one-to-one equals. You can also talk to people from a child point of view. And you can, again, there's a couple of options of that, but this is where you are responding to what's said to you as a child. And this can be the free child where you sat with your friends and you're sharing your ideas and thoughts and you're having a bit of a laugh and you're thinking things through and you're doing the what if scenarios. Or you can go into the adapted child where you're going, well, if you want me to do my homework, well, I will do my homework. I'll do 1 page of it. I'll put it down there on the table just to prove to you I've done it. So it drives this sort of rebellious streak in you. Does all of that make sense? Do all of those make sense? They're the way you can approach people. Bearing in mind, people can also expect you to approach them from one of those. So if you're sitting down with a client and a new client, they may very much push you into being the parent in that conversation, expecting you to be critical or expecting you to be nurturing and advice. But actually, if we look at the next slide, if we talk to them as a parent, what response does that tend to elicit from the other person? A child response. So I will do my books. Well, I can't do this because of this. So you get all the excuses, you get all the behaviour that you see from children, but manifesting itself in an adult form. That can be really hard because actually you are being pushed into being the parent. So think about how you can change that conversation to become from an adult to an adult, which keeps them in that adult frame. And if you can get this right, thinking about when you're going into those meetings, this is when you can start to have those meaningful conversations. So think about the conversations, think about the phrases you use, think about the times when you find yourself going, well, what you need to do is this. Think about when you sound like, oh, I just sounded like my mother there, I just sounded like my father. Is there a better way you can phrase it, put them into the adult frame of mind to respond to you? Now, if this is something that interests you, do drop something in the chat box, because it's something I really like is a transactional analysis. I know Emma likes it as well. Certainly Google it. There's loads and loads of stuff out there, but there's lots of different things that fit around this. And if we can get those relationships working, if we can get you to drag those clients that are being the child or the petulant child back into adult mode, it means you can have that conversation. If you can have that conversation, you're in a position to help them. Any thoughts from you there, Emma, on this one?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was just thinking that it's so easy for us to almost lapse into the parent role with our clients, and almost and what happens often with them is we also, as a parent, take on responsibility quite often for the child and what the child is expected to achieve. And so as the accountant, we sort of talk about what the challenges are for the client in their business, but when we sort of look at the solutions, often it involves almost us taking responsibility for it instead of the client taking responsibility for it. And that's when it moves from parent to child to adult. If you can subtly change that conversation to make sure that the responsibility is with the adult, that they take responsibility for the changes that are happening in their business, because it's not about us doing it all, is it? It's about us helping them identify what needs to be changed, but the only way it'll happen is if they're the adult and they take charge of it happening. So having that subtle change in the language that you use to move from being parent to child to adult could be really, really valuable, I think, for both the accountant and the client to feel that they're then in partnership to make change.
I think that's a really good word. And anything you can do to get them out of pushing you into that parent box equals that relationship as well, doesn't it? Okay, so just an interesting concept, because I think that really ties in with the work of Cialdini. And you've probably heard us mention Cialdini's work before, but he's developed 6 principles which you can use to persuade people's thinking. Don't think this is about being devious and underhand in how you deal with things and used car dealership type things. It's a way of putting things across, in my mind, in an adult way, without using pressure, without using hard sales techniques, to help them to elicit an adult response and actually do something about what you say. And I'm going to take you through these and pose some questions which you can apply to your own business, because what I want you to do is, after this, is maybe go through these slides, maybe use them with your team, maybe just start to think about, actually, how does this apply? What can we do to attract those customers that we want? What can we do to actually work with them and have meaningful conversations that lead to that added value work? Now, the first one of these is, I can't say the word today, Emma.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. In simple terms, this means if you give something to someone, they are more likely to give you something back in return. And don't think of this as buying people. At the naive thinking, you think it's about buying people and, you know, giving them a bottle of wine and bribery. It's not about all that. What it's about saying is simple giveaways increases the likelihood of people wanting to do business with you. And again, this might be, back with us here at AVN, it might be a case of saying, you know what, you've done really, really well getting your accounts in. Let's do a benchmark on your business and let's see if there's anything we can do there. Or I had a great conversation with one of our clients this morning who actually joined as a trialist, who actually gets people to do basically a certificate because they've done a donation to B1G1. So again, this is all reciprocity working in its own way. It can also work in reverse, which is a really interesting one here. So actually, if you ask somebody to do you a favour, they are still more likely to ask you to do something for them in the future. So think about things like testimonials. By you actually asking a favour of them, they feel like they've got more buy-in with you and that they will want to do more with you. So asking for favours, giving little bits away that are of value, and I think that's for me is the important thing there. You've got to give them something of value, otherwise it doesn't mean anything. They are in a position to do something back for you, and they will want to, but the other side of that is they need to understand what you would want to do for them. We had a great example, didn't we, at the workshop last week, where one of our members had got somebody who was struggling to pay for the tax return. Do you remember?
Mm.
And actually what she said is, I will do this for you, and I will do you for this at a reduced cost, but what I need you to do for me is do me a testimonial. And they were so pleased to do that, because what she said, they were in tears, because actually she had done so much to help them. It was her way of being able to give something back for her. So again, think about it across the whole of your business. Anything to add there, Emma?
I think that example that you've brought up is really important, because it's sort of linked to that feeling that you care about people. And so when you show that you're willing to be a bit flexible for a client, often that gratefulness that you've been caring enough to think about what you could do does kick in that reciprocity thing, that they will want to help you in other ways. And it doesn't always have to be big things, but sometimes it has to be visible. I think sometimes what happens is we don't make some of this stuff that we do visible. And so being able to, it's that combination. You want to do things for somebody, but it's no good doing something for free if they don't see that you've done it in a way.
That's true.
You don't get the reciprocity connection.
Yeah.
So it's a combination. I think you should be doing things, but you should make them visible. And we all do it every day, to be honest. In everybody's lives, we're always doing something for somebody else. And subconsciously, it's because we want them to like us or to help us with something else in the future or whatever else. And it's just treating clients just like any other people, with the same respect and behaviours as you would normally. And again, if you remember in the positioning work, but we talk an awful lot about what are your internal values and beliefs, and connecting with prospects and clients who share that. And then this reciprocity almost becomes part of the everyday relationship that you have with them. And that builds, like Andrew was saying, such a strong connection between you, that if something does happen, that rocks the boat for any reason, you've got that connection that you're willing to support each other in whatever way.
Yeah, I think that's very sound, Emma. And I think it also pushes you very much into that adult relationship as well.
Definitely. The other thing I really liked about that example you pointed out was the client, had realised was in financial difficulty, needed a tax return done, but was in such financial difficulty, she was so worried she hadn't come to the accountant early enough really to get stuff done, because she was just frightened of not having the money to pay and not being able to do it. And
she was in child mode. Exactly.
But what the accountant was treat it as an adult to adult. I am prepared to help you with this, and you can help me back. And so they actually stopped them being the child. They didn't have to be the child anymore. They didn't feel in that position of weakness as a child, because the accountant gave them something that allowed them to be an adult back, which was give me a testimonial, go on to, I think it was to go on the Yellow Pages, wasn't it, and write a testimonial.
Yes.
Something that was really visible to the outside world. And she wrote a raving testimonial. It was quite outstanding, wasn't it? And I think that's because the accountant allowed that person to stay the adult, not be in that child position. So I think that was really important.
Yeah, good. I think it's a great one, that one. I think it's one that's misused and underused so much. Okay, scarcity. And I think this one speaks for itself, but remember, think back over the years. Do you remember the Tracy Island that nobody could get hold of at Christmas?
I think we're all showing our age now, aren't we, Andrea? These things are in here.
It gets worse, Emma. It gets worse, Emma. Do you remember Furbies? Do you remember the fight to find Furbies for children in the 80s? And even, I am showing my age now, Cabbage Patch dolls, where they were trading for hundreds and hundreds of dollars because people couldn't get hold of them. And this is one of the things is scarcity. Not having too many available creates the demand. And you'll see this time and time again. Flight companies are great for using this now. They have different prices, they have different pricing structures. So as you know, you can book a flight at one price, a different price, or a different price. They're all hidden, but the scarcity of the low value flights, therefore it increases people to book. And again, it is just marketing at the end of the day. But there are things from this that you can start to think about when you're dealing with your clients. So think about your diary. How much time do you make available to people? Do you say, oh, you can come and see me any time in the daytime? Or do you actually pin them down to a slot that works for you as well? Again, that's adult to adult. You're meeting your needs as well as their needs. Every time your client rings, do you stop doing what they need? Do you stop doing what you're doing to actually answer their call, to actually deal with their problem? Does this affect your working on the business time? Again, are you very much being the parent there and pushing them into the child because you know you've got to go and deal with their problem straight away? So think about your time, think about the availability of things. You know, and people need to feel privileged that you are working with them, that you've got that adult to adult relationship with them. Anything else on scarcity there for you, Emma?
Yeah, I was thinking about some of the things that we encourage you all to do in order to attract new clients. So, you know, sort of running seminars or webinars or any articles where we ask people, there is a call to action, and the call to action is book a meeting with us, or you know, something like that. And what I've been encouraging quite a few of the members that I've been talking to is if you're designing something like that to attract prospects to come to a meeting, that you use either a member of your team or a virtual assistant to manage your diary, to take those calls or to make those follow-up calls, to book the meeting, to actually say, oh, I can see that Mr. Lawrence is only available on Friday at 10 or on Monday at 4, which of those slots works for you, to actually again position you better. And then particularly in some of the smaller businesses that I've been talking to, smaller accountancy practices, you know, it looks more professional as well to have somebody manage your diary. And just as you've put there, it makes you more efficient and effective as well, because you know that the time that you have those meetings booked, you have your head in the right zone to talk to those people and be really focused on their needs and how you can help them, rather than if you're in the middle of doing an accounts finalization and you're going through and suddenly the phone rings, you're not ready for it, you're not prepared for that call, so you may not give them the best advice or the best attention that you should have, because in the back of your mind you're still worrying, oh, I've got to finish this job today. I think although I think as a part of our profile is we want to be there for people, we want people to be able to call us at any time and be able to support them. Actually, that does neither parties a favour, because we're not in the right place in our headspace to deal with that properly. And actually thinking about managing your diary and showing that, like you said, is more adult to adult, because you're allowing people to say, right, this is how important both of our time is, so we both need to be prepared for that call, that meeting, whatever. And having diary management, I think, is really important. Yeah,
and you could even take that a stage further. So if you can say to people, actually, we've got some slots next month where we could start to do your year end for you. You can start to actually create slots where you're saying, actually, you know, we've got a little bit of space there. If you've got your books ready, let's get them in and let's get started on them. So you could actually use the scarcity in your workflows, couldn't you, as well, Emma?
Yeah, well, that's actually a really good point, because there's a couple of AVM members I know who have been planning out a 12-month work program and have actually set important key deadlines with their clients about when they bring those books and records in, and said, we have a limited amount of resource. We want to give you all the services that you'd like from us. The time slot for us to deliver that is this. Unfortunately, if you miss that time slot, we cannot guarantee that the work will get done, because we have, you know, we have the next client that we want to give our 100% of our attention and support to, and they will be slotted in around. So I think that's been really, really interesting to see, actually educating your client.
That's a good one, yes.
A bit better about when they bring stuff in, but also a bit about helping to relieve some of the tension and stresses that happens internally when your team are messed around because books and records aren't brought in when you've planned the workload. And because that causes so much stress to the team, which is unnecessary if the education has taken place. And that's adult to adult again, isn't it? It's about, well,
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just thinking actually, when your own child interrupts you, you almost go straight into adult mode of that. What do you want now?
Yeah.
And actually, it's very easy when you pick up the phone where you're actually trying to do something to actually come across in very, very much that same tone, even though you don't intend to. It can come across. Okay. Authority. You need to, and again, this is about having the authority to be able to do what you do and to be seen as authority and to be seen as somebody who people can come to and who clients can come to who know what they are doing. And it's a bit like, whenever you go and buy something from anyone, you are almost sussing out that person as to how much they know about that product and how much authority they've got to speak about it. Whether it be a new car, whether it be a television, you want to understand that you're speaking to the right person who's got the authority to make the deals that you want and to have the conversations that you need. So this is one where you've got to get your head into having that authority, but there's a knack between doing that and becoming a parent when doing that, and especially a critical parent who gives out lots and lots of advice of what you need to be doing and what you should be doing and where you should be going with things. But it's about building authority. So it's not only just about that conversation there and actually thinking about how you come across and how you use it really, really well, how you drop in your previous knowledge and previous experience. It's about the things that you do to build that. So taking a step back from that. And this might be doing an offering to do some public speaking slots. And I know for some people that fills you full of dread. But we've had some really good feedback about Toastmasters, haven't we, Emma, in terms of building those skills and being able to speak with authority when you're speaking about subjects that you know an awful lot about, because that's your background. It's there in your AVM brochure, but writing your AVM book is a great way of stamping your authority on what you do and actually being able to share that with your clients. Offering and writing articles for local paper and publications. This is a great way of getting your name known, getting yourself even some free advertorial work there, almost getting yourself free adverts. But what's actually great is you're actually writing as an expert and actually sharing your knowledge. And that's when people come to you because they think, well, this person knows what they're talking about. They're the person I want to do my accounts. They're the person I want to support me with my business. That's where you can also expand your sphere of knowledge as not just being in the accountancy field, but actually being in the business improvement and helping people grow and develop their services. So think about that. Think about, is there any opportunities to write for local papers, publications? Associating yourself with the names of experts. So actually, if you're on LinkedIn and there's various experts you really like the work of in different areas, then follow them, link with them, learn from them, because actually that helps you with your authority as well. Things like blogs and press releases. Again, blogs are a very simple way of in essence, writing a short article and getting it out to many people, which puts you in their area of knowledge, but it also puts you in their area of people that they go to for support and guidance. They know your name, they trust your name, they will then come to you. So think about things like this. It also builds your authority because you know you can talk about these areas. You can talk about the press release that you wrote. You can talk about the blog that you wrote. You can refer people to them. It all helps you build not just your authority, but the authority of your practice. And I think for me, this is one that doesn't just stop there. Encourage your team to do the same and build their authority. Remember, you're wanting a team that can actually deal with clients and do the front end work with clients. They need to build their authority and their authority within the practice. And with their authority, their confidence will grow. Thoughts, Emma?
Yeah, well, to me, that word authority in a way is credibility, isn't it? It's about actually being that credible person. And all the things that are on your slide, I mean, as you know, the advanced members have all the content of the Business Builder Forums, 40-minute presentations that they can very easily adapt and do. And again, in the profile roadmap, we will work hard with you to give you that ability to be able to feel confident to stand up and talk about things you know, not things you don't know. You know, we're not those sort of people that can make it up on the spot. We're not those sort of, but actually having something ready and prepared to. I think, again, the AVM book, I know obviously it's the Simple Stuff That Works content, but also again, that's a really great in to talk about all those sort of things. They have a book that I've co-authored with AVN. And the reason why I've done that is because I'm really passionate about helping businesses develop and grow, and we've created this process called Simple Stuff That Works. It's a really easy in and an authority, and it sort of links again with AVN and the AVN members who, as you all know, there's a lot of AVN members out there who are winning lots of awards, you know, and in their award entry it's putting that they're part of AVN, so you're connecting to those people too. The advertorials, that's a really interesting one, because again, I had somebody who I work with who is a very shy retiring man, and who doesn't like being in front of client, doing that client stuff, particularly the prospect stuff. And he was approached to do an advertorial, whatever that is, with 5 other accountants in his area. And what we did was we used the content that he'd written in the positioning workbook. So at the end of the positioning workbook, you've got your elevator pitch, and you've got your entry for the business owner guide. So in that day, we help you write those 2 things, which are your key differentiators, how you should be seen by the outside world. And he basically just cut and pasted that content into this advertorial. And he sent me it, and they showed me the 5 entries, and he just stood out a mile as being different in a really positive way. You know, not using the same language that everybody else uses, using completely different language that was him. But it really worked. And when you're attracting clients that you want, which is, you know, that was the title of today, attracting the clients you want, actually having something like where people go, oh, I like him, or I like her, they speak my language, that's really works, you know, to attract the right people. I have I'm guessing the same issue that most accountants have, members, is with blogs, is where do I find the time to write them? Some of you probably know that I do have a blog thing. I think I've put 2 articles on it. I am terrible at writing them. And so part of that is actually having the strength to book out time to do it. And it doesn't have to be rocket science on the blog. No. It really doesn't. It's just a comment on something that you see or do, you know, or have part of. And you have so many things. And one of the things I would point you to, again, on track, if you look at the Key Improvement Possibilities Report, there are loads of ideas in there of things you could just put in as blogs, link through to what about, have you ever thought about doing this, you know, even from something as simple as, you know, power of attorney, isn't it? That sort of thing. There are loads of things in there already, and there is an appendix to the On Track, which is all the it's the suggestions of the different services that you could offer, and we talk about that a lot in the value roadmap of all the things, extra things. But again, just writing a little blog about something that actually eventually links back to a service that you offer. So, you know, have you seen those what is it? So have you seen those adverts for that online software that means you don't even need an accountant? You know, and actually, this is our experience of people who use it. Yeah. And the experience is that most of them end up needing far more help because it's not as simple as it sounds. And they want more hand-holding, and they want more people to support them. And so there's ways of talking about it, so giving them an in. So I think the blogs is a great thing, but I think when we talk about you having time where you work on your business, that's one of those things you could do in that on your business time. Because it's about raising your profile, it's about raising your authority, it's about people seeing that you are somebody worth listening to or reading about, you know, their comments. But actually having booked in your time that, you know, 20 minutes a week, you're going to go and write one and put it up there. But it takes some control in your diary to do that. So, you know, make sure that happens, I think. And it may not be you as well. You like Andrew was saying, there are some of your team, I imagine, who are great at this sort of stuff, you know, and possibly write blogs in their spare time for whatever social group they're in or whatever hobby they have or whatever else. And to tap into that and get them engaged with perhaps writing blogs for you could be really helpful too. So a blog from their perspective as somebody who helps look after, you know, who services a business via an accountancy practice.
Good idea. That's a good idea. I also think as well, by writing down your thoughts and views on something, such as in a blog or in a release, it actually helps you crystallise your own thinking as well. And actually, once that's written down, that can become the standpoint for how you view things as your firm, as your practice, which straight away starts to strengthen how you do things and why you do things in the way that you do them. So again, and moving away from the authority, I do think it's a really, really good exercise to get into and share them with your team, because actually they know what your thinking is by doing that. And part of any of this is getting the team thinking the same way as you think. So actually that enforces the practice and enforces the brand of that practice and the philosophy of that practice. It ties it all together for you.
Yeah, and I think, just like you said, getting the team to do it, build up the team's authority, also helps with that movement of, in some firms, the challenge we've got to move in the client relationship from the partner to the client manager. But if you can position the client manager with the authority in certain areas, that makes that movement of that relationship much easier as well, to free up the partner's time to be doing more of the added value work instead.
Yeah. And that's when when they ring up to talk to you, and you go, oh, it's John, it's really nice to talk to you, John. They go, oh, it's not you I wanted, it's Anitra I needed to speak to. Yeah. You know you've done it. When it gets to that stage, you know you've done it, don't you?
You do, yeah.
Okay, on to commitment and consistency. And people like to know what they're getting at each stage of their journey with you. It's a lot of work we see at the moment about journey mapping and customer journey mapping. And at every stage of that process, this is about reinforcing that they have come to the right place. So at every decision they make, they need to know that they've made the right decision. Again, this is really important for smaller firms, but it's getting that branding right. The consistency needs to look that if a letter's come from your practice, it needs to look like it's come from your practice. We know we've all got slightly different styles of writing, that's fine, but the branding, the look and the consistency needs to be the same. The reinforcement of the positive decisions that they've made to come to you needs to be the same. Things to think about there, and I just dropped in, is for example, you've got your branding there, you're talking to somebody because you're an advanced member about having a PMI folder, and you've really listened to them. They can see the benefit for it. Having one made up in advance to sort of show with them, share them, get them enthused about it. So it's about having the consistency, having your processes set up there for the journey you want to take your clients on. Also about delivering a consistent service. So actually, we're not saying it's always about, returning things straight away or doing things immediately. But if you say you're going to return emails within 24 hours, an email is returned within 24 hours. If you're returning a call within the same day, they know that they're going to get that consistent service. So what you don't want is one day that it gets returned straight away. Next time they call, it's 3 days before you return it. It's that having that consistency so they know what to expect from you. It feels normal, it feels right. And also throughout that journey, and it's one of my passions at the moment, is the customer journey mapping, is confirming what you can do. You can confirm what they need doing and actually doing it for them. So it's about those little micro decisions that are taken along that path and making sure you reinforce them as you go. Anything from you there on that one, Emma?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you just mentioned was about people like to know what's going on. And so I think one of the critical things about this commitment consistency is having that defined in the relationship. So using something like the fixed price agreement proposal out of Time's Up, which very clearly states what you're going to do for the client and what you expect back in return, what the standard of behaviour between each other is, and things like, your standards of answering letters or dealing with issues or whatever else, to have that in writing as part of the relationship, rather than assume they know, because often their assumption is very different from ours of what is or is not included in the process, what is or is included as sort of as delivery, but also in behaviour standards. And being able to say that, and also sticking up, because I was sticking up for your team as far as having consistency and commitment to some of those standards you set. So if in your team you have some values and beliefs and standards about how people treat each other, then your clients need to know that's part of your behaviour system, so that if they ring up and they are swearing or being rude down the phone, your team have every right to end the call in a professional manner, but to say this does not, to have a recourse, not have to accept behaviour, bad behaviour. And I know that doesn't happen very often, but with certain clients it does, and that's really demoralising for the team. But unless the client's made aware of it, they can't adapt and change their behaviour accordingly, which is what we all do, isn't it? When we know what about it, if we know what the behaviour should be, the consistency should be, then we'll behave accordingly. So that, I think it's really important to have that written down and shown and be visible to everybody. I think the second thing is about that branding thing is really, really important. Consistency on branding is really important, and particularly in language. And that's something that you really need to work with your team. A long time ago, we had a team member who sent emails out full of emojis and other things, which is just not really how we behave. I mean, it's not, if you know somebody, you would perhaps do that, but it's not something that is part of our standard tone of our emails. And it changed relationships with some people who didn't like that, because they expected a certain professionalism that they didn't think was there. Just by the way that she wrote emails. And it is having some internal rules about professionalism, about consistency, about language, so that you don't have to check what's going out, because it's awful if you're in that situation where you're feeling you've got to check every communication that goes out of the building. If you've got people on board, your team on board, who are with your values and beliefs and understand some of these rules, that really helps. I think then as well, making sure you've got some consistency with delivery of stuff is really key, just like Andrew was saying. So if you have gone through something like Time's Up and a client has picked all these different services, just ensure they are delivered. Again, speaking to a member the other day who had a client who had expressed interest in board view, so regular meetings, but they'd never actually booked them in the diaries. So they never actually delivered.
Yeah.
And in the end, they actually lost income because their system was to invoice on meeting. So they lost quite a substantial amount of income because they hadn't made that process visible and had a consistent delivery within that. So again, putting some internal systems in place is critical for that commitment and consistency about how people see you and how you're going to deliver on it, because they make a lot of decisions, and they make a lot of important sort of understanding about you from what they see as far as delivering. And again, it's about making that visible.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And of course, System Builder is a great system for helping you systemize your systems, isn't it? And writing them down and getting that consistency in there.
Yeah, and knowing that, and even something, I mean, the PMI is a system, it's a delivery system, and it's about having that consistency around it. But again, one of those great things is that once you start doing that, you can start getting stories and testimonials from people that go back, don't they, to give you authority again, because you show other people that you are delivering, and what you say you're doing, you're actually delivering. Yeah.
And I particularly like the consistency going back to the adult. So actually things don't fall into a black hole. Actually, people have the conversation about what's happening, that they know that their accounts are being seen to, they're not worried, they're having to chase it, they're not having to go, I'm going to give them hell because I've not actually seen anything from them for 3 weeks. That relationship changes because you've got that on good going, that consistency, and that reporting back and letting people know where you're up to, all creates a much better relationship and able to build more on it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I think this is one of my favourite ones. It's a very simple one, but it's about liking. Simple. It's simple. People, not simple people, but simple people need to like you to do business with you. It's as simple as that. And you know it yourself when you go somewhere. If that gut feel isn't right, then people don't want to work with you. If they haven't got that feeling that this person understands me, wants to be with me, if it's just not there, no matter how much you might know your product, be the best accountant, be the most compliant and fantastic in terms of dealing with doing the basic work for them, if that gut feel isn't there that you can work with that person, you will not work with them, or you won't work with them for very long. So this is about being genuine, again, thinking adult to adult and being sincere with your motives. So this is about having the open relationships with your clients and being able to have the conversations with them. I've also put in there it's about being sympathetic and empathetic to their needs, but that doesn't mean that you rush in like a parent and meet all their needs, because quite simply you can't do that. But what you can do is you can listen and you can understand them, and you can help them draw conclusions from that, and also then suggest ways that as an adult you might be able to help them move forward out of that situation. And this is the one that gets me time and time and time again, is being genuinely interested in their business and asking questions. And quite often when you're out there and you're wanting to pitch to somebody about a new service, you're a little bit nervous, and all you want to do is tell them all about your business and get the business and get out of there. But actually, that process starts by being able to listen to them and really understand their business. One of our members said the greatest sentence to me, because he had a lot of success in one particular sector. I said, "What is it you do, Philip?" He said, "I'm just really nosy about their business. I don't just talk to them about the figures. I'm really nosy about their business. I really want to know what makes their business tick." And he said, from that, I'm then able to link in what I can do to help them, and we can have a meaningful conversation about it. So, we've heard people saying, "Oh, I've got a PowerPoint presentation designed, and actually what I'm going to do is sit them down and take them through the PowerPoint presentation." I don't think, Emma, that will lead people into the business. I think the stage first of that assessment and that understanding needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And again, making people feel special and appreciated. If somebody's got some information to you on time, thank them for it, drop them an email. Just make your clients feel that they are special to you and you've got a special relationship. And that, you genuinely, because I genuinely like working with all the members that I work with. And that's not something that I say lightly, because I genuinely like the relationship we've got. I like the banter that we have, and I like the way that we do things. And I think if you can sort of get that same relationship with your clients, you are really on that road to doing some extra great work for them. And I think along that, show whenever you can that you understand them, you understand where they're coming from, you understand their problems, you understand their predicaments, you understand what's working for them, and you understand their frustrations. And by building that, you've then got a much better position to start to do business with them.
Yeah, I think if any of you've read any of the stories in the two books about the AVN Inspiring Accountants, or the World's Most Inspiring Accountants, you'll know that there's a commonality to all of them. And the commonality is that they sat down and listened first. They found out what that person's needs were. And the flip side, back to the reciprocity, is that, again, those of you that saw them at the conference we did about the AVN Inspiring Accountants, those clients that came on stage were the greatest advocates I have ever heard for those accountants, and were willing to shout from the rooftops about them. And they are the people that, those stories go on to become the authority and the way that people will want to work with you in the future. So I think I think that listening, that being part of it, being understanding is important. And the liking is critical to me, because it's so hard to give 100% to somebody you don't like. It really is. It's just a natural thing, and you want to give them 100%. You want to give them, a brilliant service. You want to help them. So I think that liking's really important.
Yeah. And I do think there's something in that liking and gut feel, because we didn't roam the savannah for many years without that sort of that intuition that something doesn't feel quite right with someone or something. I do believe that there is that sense in there, and actually if you're feeling it, you've got to understand why. And actually, if you can do business with that person, if you've got that feeling that something isn't right there, your body is telling you something. It's about understanding what it's telling you and what you can do about it. It might be quite often that you've just not got enough information about them and how they do things. And actually, when you understand that, you understand how they operate, you understand what forms them as a person, you're then able to work with them. So it may just be that listening that helps you with the liking, I guess.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because first impression is quite often the thing, and it's that first 2 seconds that you can either think you get on with somebody or not. And I just wanted to remind people that on our YouTube channel, AVN Changing the Numbers channel, there is a recording of a training session I did last year, which talks all about how to interact with people, thinking about whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, even from that, what sort of handshake you need, what you can learn from somebody's handshake. So that might be something that some of you might want to go and rewatch at some point to help remind you about that.
I think all this is fantastic professional development that helps you in life in general, not even with just your practice, but just in general, just helps you with relationships, helps you meet people in the social sector, helps you just get along better when you're in networking situations as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we're on to the final one now. So conscientious and social proof. And hands up if you're like me, you're going on holiday, you're going somewhere new, and you've seen the hotel and you quite fancy the hotel. What's the one thing you do before you book that hotel? Well, I do anyway. I go on TripAdvisor and I check it. And I've got a small family. I want to make sure that actually people like me use that hotel and it gives them the service that they need. Time and time again, people do it. They need that conscientious and social proof. They also need that to prove that the decisions they're making are the right decisions. They need that confidence in it. So this is why things like referrals are so important, because they help people go, that person's like me, they help that person, that's how they can help me. And again, it's the same with referrals. If they're happy to talk to somebody for you and actually introduce you, they know why they're introducing them. They know why that Emma the accountant is the right person to help them with their business. They know that you're your best traits for that. So again, referrals are a good way also of making people realise why you have been such a good decision to come to you for their accounts and their business advice. So with testimonials, and again, don't just collect them. It's wonderful to collect them, and you might get testimonials every time you do a set of accounts to someone. What are you doing with them? Are you just sitting on them? Are you putting a couple on the office wall? Are you going, oh, that's nice, and sticking it with the photocopier? Or are you genuinely doing it, updating your website with it, dropping it onto your footers of your emails, doing different things with it, talking to people about them, when you go to a networking event? So I had a client who, this was his problem, this happened. And actually he wrote to me afterwards saying how much I'd helped him. You can use testimonials in conversation. Think about how you use them, because otherwise, it's like collecting results from something. If you don't do something with them, it's absolutely pointless. We've had it with a couple of them, Yell and business reviews. Check what is listed, and I would say check that now, because I've worked with a couple of members that actually the website that's been attached to them on Yell isn't even their website, which is quite worrying, and actually it's an accountant somewhere else in the country. Even to the worst is actually, it's not actually them who've been reviewed against it. So be aware of these things, see what's being said in the greater world that's out there. Even Googling your practice, see what comes up. Make sure that everything that's coming up sends people the right message that is you. Again, LinkedIn, I've not been great at this, but I think there's something there about asking for recommendations and getting brave about it, and also giving recommendations when somebody's been really great to deal with. When you've got a great supplier, tell them that they're a great supplier, because actually by doing things like that, they can give you an even better service. Give them some clues about what they're doing as they're going forward. So think about that social proof. Think about where you go for social proof. Think about what you would need to make that decision, and make sure that those parts are there for your customers as part of their journey to be able to get that information to help them want to come to you.
Yeah, do you mind if I shared my screen?
Not at all, Emma, not at all.
Just see if I can.
Oh, I hope not, anyway.
Let's see if I can. Sorry, I'm going to have a million things open when you're all here, but I just wanted to show you. Can you see the website that I've got open, guys? This is Lawrence & Co.'s website. Can you see that? Andrea, can you see that?
I can't see that, but my machine is set up slightly differently.
Can anybody else?
Give us a nod in the chat box if you can see it.
I've opened up Lawrence & Co.'s website.
No, so Liam can't see it, Keith can't see it.
I can hear it. I can see it at the top.
Emma can't see it.
You can see it at the top, but it's not opening up.
If you click View Options, and there's a shared screen, there's two options. If you select the second AVN.
I can't see that on mine. Oh, wait a minute.
what we found is Zoom have made a few changes to our settings, and every so often we will try and do something and it'll change it. Keith says he's got it now.
Oh, yeah. Have you? I've just stopped it. But what I would recommend you to do is to go to Lawrence & Co.'s website if you can. I don't know why my show didn't work properly there. There is the most amazing homepage on there where they have built a tree out of testimonials.
Really?
Honestly, it's the most amazing thing. I don't know why it won't share it, but it's beautiful. It says, our tree of living proof. These are our clients' most frequent words to describe us. Just click on a word to read more. And there's a tree in it. So it's got recommend, thanks, pleasure, awarded, hospitable, exceptional, thorough, confident, reasonable, tailored, happy, accurate, kind, speed. And it's made into a tree. And every time you click on the word, it drills straight down into the testimonials behind it. How many people said these words? It's phenomenal. Absolutely.
And whose website's that on again, Emma?
It's on Lawrence & Co. If you go to lawacc.co.uk, so that's www.lawacc.co.uk. Have a look at their website, because that consensus social proof is phenomenal on that page, and that's a real true example of how you attract the clients you want to work with, and how you show people in a really lively interactive form of what's going. And they have a system, so every event, every meeting, they get the testimonial. That word, those words are posted immediately onto the web page on the behind the scenes, and it automatically then updates the tree. So every time you go in, the tree looks different, because it's whatever the words are that have just been said about them. So to me, that's a great example. If people, what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat box, the website.
Yeah,
because it really is. Again, I think what you need to look at is perhaps other members' websites to see what they're doing to show that social proof. Because again, it's great collecting all this stuff. You've got to be really visible about sharing it, and that's the trick, really. So on your website, on your email footers, on any interaction, and get your team to be really excited about sharing these thank you, these referrals. Share them with your team as well, because again, as partners, often we will get to see that or hear the thank you, but don't always pass it on to our team. And again, engaging them with it is really important, because they will continue to be the advocates for your business as well. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry it didn't work, but to have a look at that website, because I just thought that was amazing when he showed me that. He came to a positioning event and we talked about some other stuff, and he said, do you want to see my website? I was like blown away by it.
We've got Keith on at the moment, haven't we, as well?
It's not Keith, it's Jay Chatwani's.
Oh, Jay's. Yes, of course.
So it's interesting one to have a look at.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Sorry, bit of a off piece there, sorry, but
No. I think it's any different ideas you've got to do it, but bear in mind it's the first thing we do, and I think it's becoming part and parcel of that customer journey and that decision making. People want that understanding that actually they deal with people like you, and if they've got that, then they know that they're in good hands. And that's where you can start to do the work. And again, all this pins down to understanding who your ideal client is, because actually that's when you can get even better at these things. Okay, final slide.
Have I messed up your system now?
No,
Sorry.
we're fine. Okay, so there's a bit of a call to action here for you. This has been recorded. What I would do, and just a suggestion, so I'm not going to be a critical parent here, is my thoughts were with something like this, it might be a really good idea to write down the different headers and just think, what could I do in my practice to actually start to address some of these things, and get your team involved in that. If there's something there about social proof, actually, what do you do currently? What else could you do? So start to just use it as a bit of a way of shining the light on your practice with it. Review your messages and literature, and think about what ego state are you coming from. So what perspective? Are you coming at it from a critical parent where straight away they're going to come in and see you as children? Is there any way you can put your messages across that create that adult to adult conversation? Listening to your clients. Don't just talk about what you want to do for them. You need to be able to link this back to what they've told you. You've heard of the what's in it for me. We hear that so often. That kicks into play when you've listened to them. So again, the time you spend listening to them will help you link back what you want to talk to them about. And actually, there may be some things you wanted to talk to them about that are not relevant after that. There may be some things you've not thought of that are relevant, but you need to have that, start that conversation. Bit of a plug here, but use System Builder to create consistency in your processes. I love consistency, I love processes, and I think it's a really great way of getting your practice working really well and freeing up time to do the really, really interesting things. But it does mean you've got to spend time getting those processes right. And again, you know, members who I work with, it's something I'm passionate about, and I think the more you can do it, the better your practice will become. Use the knowledge base in System Builder. I love the knowledge base. It's got so much information in there. There's loads of resources there. There's loads of toolkits in there. If you're not using it or you want your team to, again, talk to myself and Emma, talk to whoever your practice growth expert is. We love to take you through that because there's just so much in there. And, you know, use us here at AVN. If there's anything more in this session that you'd like to cover, if there's anything else that's actually just, you know, tweaked your interest, talk to us about it, because we will willingly share more of this with you when we next have our calls with you. That's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Emma just for any final words, and I'll have a quick cursory look in the chat box just to see if there's anything there that we have missed or people want us to pick up before we have finished, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all I'd like to say is that if you haven't done the positioning workbook roadmap, please do come along and do it. You know, even if you're only part way through your clarity book, come and do positioning, because it's really good to get a clear understanding of how you want to differentiate your practice from other practices, and get a really clear picture of connecting to you and what's important to you. So you attract those clients that you like and you want to work with, and that's really important. And then if you haven't been on positioning and you haven't been on value, to come on value, because that's where we look at individually all the services you offer and how you can explain those in a way that, again, attracts people to see the benefit of using them. So it's never a sales pitch. It's more about you being aware of these solutions that you have at your fingertips to help once you start having these conversations with people. And I guess my other thing is that, particularly when you're talking to prospects, is, as Andrea says, don't just dive in with what you think is the solution. We're really good at that. I know I can help you. I've got an answer. I can do it. We're really good at that. But often we don't get the full picture in the first conversation we have. Okay? Because they're not going to open up to somebody they've never met before completely. If you can get in their own work environment, like I said, visiting them, you're more likely to get a more honest and open opinion, because you will be able to make judgments based on what you see as well as what you hear as going on in a business. But often it takes a couple of meetings, a couple of communications before you really truly understand what a client's challenges are. So often I would think, try not to jump into too many, here's our solutions, but actually, I know I can help you with that, but I think I need to find out a little bit more about you to make sure that I'm on the right track, because I don't want us to go off on a tangent and you be paying for something that isn't of value. Do you know what I mean? Have that sort of conversation. And all of this stuff that Andrew's covered today is about showing that that's part of who you are, isn't it? Having those sort of conversations does provide all the things that all those Cialdini sections, all that thing we've talked about is really important. And it's behaving as an adult to an adult, and then becoming almost in partnership, working together, which is the key, isn't it? For why they'll want to continue working with you in the future, and want more of your support in the future too.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emma. That is a brilliant summary. So don't forget, think about your next roadmap events. They're all in your AVN brochure. If you can't find that to hand and you want one, we'll send you one. We have an extra session, actually, just to mention it. We booked in for Time's Up on the 25th of April. A bit of a Time's Up refresher session plan. So actually, if you're thinking, I've not used it for a while, or I want to get my team up and running on it, or I just want a refresher on it, get yourself booked on that. You can book that through your AVN app. that's there for you. If that's useful, we're going to run some more of these sorts of sessions going forwards as well. So I'm going to sign off from now. Thank you very much for sharing your lunchtime with me. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And I look forward to speaking to you in the future, or I guess Emma does as well.
Yes, it'd be lovely to speak to any of you. It's been great. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liam.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Gareth. Thank you, everyone. Oh, we've got lots of thank yous coming in.
That's nice.
Reciprocation, hey, Emma.
That's lovely, isn't it? Okay.
All right, thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.